Hey guys, Seventh here. As I've mentioned not too long ago, in a few days I'm going to be heading out of town. So I'm trying to muster up, stockpile a lot of game footage so that I can still have something uploaded while I'm out of town. That way I'll have it all already clipped and everything, and all I have to do is record a voiceover clip for it and upload it. So that's something I'm working on right now. But you're looking at the Super Championship Edition of Guacamelee for the PS4. I never really talked about it too much on the PS3. It's a pretty interesting Metroidvania style game with a Mexican wrestling luchador superhero type vibe. So a lot of the combat and whatnot revolves around Mexican wrestling moves and suplexes and hurricane ranas or whatever and that kind of thing. It's fun game's got a quirky sense of humor and kind of an unusual twist for a Metroidvania style action platformer. It's actually two-player local co-op, so that can add both to the complexity of it and to the fun. So if you haven't tried it out yet, I recommend it. It's a good game. But what I wanted to talk about today was I've been getting a lot of commentary and a lot of correspondence regarding this whole Silent Hills thing. And if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, there was this rumor with a really obvious Photoshop that was attached to it, claiming that Silent Hills had been bought by Microsoft for like $1 billion. And so that the Silent Hills franchise was going to be a Microsoft exclusive. Now, anything is possible, right? We've seen stranger things happen in the world of video games. But just a few points. One, again, the Photoshop was incredibly fake. It was supposed to have been a picture taken off screen of a trailer or an image showing at the bottom coming to Xbox One 2016. But when you looked at the bottom of it, the development house that was supposed to be making this game was listed as the same company that made Kinect Adventures and Kinect Star Wars and some of the other Kinect crap. So right off the bat, what it looked like was they had taken the top poster teaser image that had been shared when the game was first announced and just slapped one of those bars across the bottom that shows who developed it, who worked on it, and all that kind of stuff. So it was a pretty poorly done Photoshop, all things considered. Secondly, the Silent Hills franchise has not had a hit in probably going on 10 years or longer. So the thought of anybody, any corporation, regardless of how much money they have, thinking that spending $1 billion on Silent Hill is a good idea, no. I'm going to say no on that. Thirdly, the two primary masterminds behind this game have both come out publicly and stated that it is dead, that it's not being worked on anymore and won't be. The actor who is going to play the lead character has said that it's dead, and as much as he'd love it to come back, it's not. And after this rumor swirled around for a week or so, Phil Spencer came out and publicly stated that it was pure rumor, that it wasn't true, that it wasn't going to happen. And I've actually had Xbox fanboys continue to push this like it's fact because they say, well, they've lied about rumors before and then turned out to be true. Yes, but when you have a week where the Uncharted collection gets leaked and Naughty Dog has to come out early about it and admit to it because of the leak, when you had Fallout 4 get leaked, and so they had to come out and show what they had for it. You had some other game, I can't remember which one, got leaked, and they had to come out and show what they had for it. You would think that something of Microsoft's getting leaked, they would go ahead and admit to it just so they'd have something to take away attention from Sony and Bethesda and all these others and keep the focus on them, rather than saying it was a lie and just hold on to it until E3. Because after all, everyone keeps telling me how the Microsoft one is going to have all these unannounced games and everything. If they've already got that much content, one exposed leak ain't going to hurt them. I mean, it happens every year, and they fess up to it and say, yes, it's coming, etc., etc. So, while anything is possible, I'll say that if there is any truth to it, it certainly wasn't for no $1 billion, because the franchise, frankly, is not worth that. The movie series is dead, and the game series hasn't been a hit in damn near a decade, if not longer. The last several games in the series have all sucked and have all been massive flops. So I'm not going to say 100% that it's not true, even though Phil Spencer has said that it's 100% not true. But I'm going to strongly suggest that it's bullshit. Of all the series that they could spend $1 billion on, I just don't see Silent Hills being one of them. There's a lot of other more popular, more successful series that they could buy the IP rights to for $1 billion before, and that would make a bigger splash than Silent Hills. So I just don't see it, folks. I just don't see it. There may be some truth to it, but frankly, I'm leaning strongly towards no. That's just the way I see it. As far as people keep asking me what I think is going to happen at E3 and blah, 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 here's what I think. Both companies are going to show games that don't come out till next year. Both are going to focus on the games that are coming out this year like they're the greatest things since sliced bread. A big chunk of Microsoft is going to be about Halo. Sony is going to focus on a lot of their third-party exclusive deals. And I suspect you're going to see a lot of footage about Uncharted. And you'll probably see a good amount of footage concerning Dragon Quest Heroes. Because honestly, Dragon Quest Heroes is probably the biggest exclusive that they've got coming out for the rest of the year. I know everyone keeps saying that they're going to push No Man's Sky really hard and that they're treating it like it's a third-party exclusive, but they're really not. I mean, how much footage has anyone really seen of No Man's Sky? Not a whole lot. That initial trailer, and then there was a tech thing, an interview where they were showing off how the procedurally generated creatures and planets were made, and that's all that's really been shown of it. If they were treating it like a AAA exclusive, they'd be having new trailers showing gameplay and all this stuff every week, and they just simply haven't been doing that. But when you get right down to it, the biggest game as far as name recognition and history of the franchise, its sellability and whatnot that they've got coming out between now and December 31st, besides the Uncharted box set that was just announced, is Dragon Quest Heroes. It comes out in October. It comes out the same month as the Uncharted set. And sure, it's not a traditional Dragon Quest game, but it carries that name. And it's of a style/subgenre, that Dynasty Warriors Musu, however it's pronounced, style, that's very popular. I'm not saying it's going to be a multi-million seller or anything like that, but as far as name recognition goes and everything, I think more people know and care about Dragon Quest than they do Tearaway. Just saying. Not saying that I'm not interested in playing Tearaway, because the footage of it looks so much different than the Vita game that I'm interested to see what they've changed, because it doesn't appear to be a straight port. It looks like they just made a whole new game in the Tearaway universe, and just I don't know if all the levels are the same or different, but there's so many different mechanics that are in it that are simply not in the Vita game and there looks to be so much more to it in the gameplay than what I know is in the Vita game, that it almost just looks like a totally different game that uses the same graphics engine. It's got that much different to it. But I'm a lot more interested in Dragon Quest Heroes than I'm interested in the new Tearaway. And I'm sure that both of them will have some surprise announcements that nobody knows about. I mean, think about it. You know, all those different studios that Sony has, they're all working on games. Sony San Diego is working on an unannounced game. Sony Bend is working on an unannounced game. Sony London is working on an unannounced game. Sony Santa Monica is working on the next God of War, according to Cory Balrog. Sucker Punch is working on a new open-world unannounced game. Media Molecule has Tearaway and some other unannounced game that they're working on. You already know what Naughty Dog's got coming out. You already know that Insomniac has got that Ratchet and Clank game that's probably finished and ready to go. They just delayed it because the movie got delayed. There's a lot. It's like every major. Polyphony Digital. You know, we already know they're working on Gran Turismo 7, and there was a rumor that they were going to upport GT6 to the PS4. Whether that's even worth the time, I'm not going to say. I think not. I think they should just drop that and go hurry up and finish Gran Turismo 7 and get that out. It's every single first-party studio that Sony has currently has a game in development or a game that's scheduled to be released. Meanwhile, you know, you've got Dragon Quest, you've got Persona 5 coming out. You've got a number of good games that are coming out for the PlayStation 4 between now and December 31st. It's just that the majority of them aren't coming from first-party developers, which isn't to say that they're not spending money on development. Every studio has a game in development. It's just that because when the PlayStation 4 landed, you had games that from those first-party developers that were launch titles. Well, they don't release games every 18 months. There's usually a 2-year gap between when one comes out and another. Look at Guerrilla Games. Guerrilla has been split into 2 studios, so now you've got Guerrilla Games and Guerrilla Cambridge. And Guerrilla Games is supposed to be working on this new open-world action RPG that has to do with robotic dinosaur-looking creatures. And then I believe that the Killzone franchise has been passed over to Guerrilla Cambridge. So whatever happens with it in the future is going to come from them, I think. So lots of stuff coming. And that's what I told you guys before, is that it was going to follow the life cycle of the PS3. And the PS3, for the first 2.5 years or so that it was out, didn't have a hell of a whole lot in first-party exclusives. It wasn't until 2009 that all of a sudden we started getting flooded with them. Same thing's going to happen here. First 2 to 2.5 years, it's kind of sparse in the first-party exclusive area. Plenty of second-party and third-party, but a little light on the first-party. And then, bam, come mid to late 2016, and especially going into the spring of 2017, you're just going to start getting buried in new stuff. It's just the way they do. And especially when it comes to just their general release window, with the exception of Little Big Planet and Uncharted, Sony has not had a regular series that hits during the holiday season. Their new games, with the exception of Uncharted and Little Big Planet, always wait until the spring in that late February to first couple of weeks of May to come out. That's their sweet spot. And oftentimes, it's 2 and 3 games a month they've got coming out. Like when Killzone 2 came out, there was several games that got released like right within weeks of each other. There was just like bam, 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 one after the next, one after the next, one after the next. And going into like 2010, 2011, it was just every time you turned around, there was something new coming out. And it was a mixture of first and third party. So you had stuff like God of War 3 coming out one week, and then something like 3D Dot Game Heroes coming out the next week, and then another one coming after that, and another one coming after that, and that's the way it's going to be. It just is. Now, I've had people try to sit and talk to me about how this whole generation is worse than the previous one. And I wrote out all the specs for one guy that mentioned this. You know, he wanted to know my thoughts on it, and I broke it all down by the numbers. And when you factor in how many studios were closed or run out of business last generation, and you look at all of the series that used to be on disc but have now switched to digital. So you're talking about some of the more casual exclusives like SingStar and camera-based games and stuff like that. Stuff that used to be released retail but now is a digital download. When you factor those kind of things out, then the amount of exclusives that are, or not the amount of exclusives, but the amount of games coming out is about the same. First 18 months of the PS3, you had like 130-something games released in that 18 months. First, second, third party. This year, it's right at 100 in the same time frame. So you're talking about a 40-game difference, but you also have to consider how many companies went out of business, how many of their regular franchises were canceled because of that or because of acquisition, and how many series have stopped being released on disc and are all digital releases now, so those don't count towards the retail release. You know, the recession hit the video game market pretty hard during the last generation, and it really hasn't recovered from it. You have a smaller development pool for these games to come out from than you did 7 or 8 years ago. It's just not as big. It has shrunk. And so, yeah, there's going to be a few less games released, and that's going to be across everything, not just Microsoft and Sony. Now, as far as Nintendo goes, they're a different story. That doesn't mean they're doing any better. It's just a different story. They are suffering from the same general lack of stuff, but it's not because of studios getting closed down. It's because of their own continued mistakes. They've made the same kind of mistakes with third parties that they did with the last previous systems. And so you have a dearth of third-party content on the Wii U. In fact, I would say that the Wii U, in the time that it's been out, versus the Wii in the time that it was out, has probably about a third of the third-party games that the Wii had. And as far as exclusives go, the Wii U is already to the point where it's taking 6 months for you to see anything new and exciting coming out for it from first party, and that's in, 3 years of release. It took the original Wii about 4.5 years to get to that point where you were having to wait 6 months to a year for something worthwhile to come out. So the Wii U has reached that point of deadness even faster than the Wii did. So you just look at it that way. But anyway, getting back to the original point, no, I strongly don't think that this Silent Hills thing is factual. Especially not for $1 billion. Now, if it had come out and said that they'd spent, I don't know, a couple of $100 million to get it, I might believe that. But $1 billion, no. So anyway, I've talked longer than I planned on, so I'm going to cut this off here. I'll try to get some more content put up tomorrow and through the rest of the week, and then, over the weekend is when I'll be off traveling. So I will talk to you guys tomorrow. This is 7th.